Welcome to the Ground and Pone podcast, a new weekly show for fans of combat sports, gaming, entertainment, and everything else in between. I'm Brian Shea, senior editor at Game Informer, joined by Scott Fontana, New York Post's MMA reporter. I'm back at home after a week away in Florida, so hopefully the audio from my side is a little bit better, but we're back in action this week. I had some travel disruptions on the way back, but thankfully, Scott, I got home just in time to catch most of the UFC London card, which honestly, I'm super happy about because that card freaking ruled.
Oh, it was such a blessing that you were able to catch it all because it really was just fantastic. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to sit down and truly enjoy it, at least live for most of it, because I was sitting, and when I say unfortunate, I don't mean that I was having a bad time, but I was doing something else. I was helping my son with his Pinewood Derby car.
Oh, how'd you do? I actually came in like 6th place one time in Pinewood Derby out of like a huge group.
So I did it like 5 years, by the way, when I was a kid. I still have all my cars actually. They're right at my feet. But no, we're just building it now. The race is actually it's this weekend. So we're past the point of putting all the weights in and sanding down and everything. Now we're just painting. So we did the first coat today. Put some brown on it. He's going to call it Chocolaka because it's going to look like a chocolate bar.
Oh, nice.
Very, very excited little 6-year-old boy right now.
So when is the actual race? It's not Saturday during the card, is it?
No. It's Sunday this time.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of a reprieve there. It's nice because there's really no interruptions on a Sunday. It's actually kind of best case scenario for me, especially because I don't have to take time off of work. It's not an evening, like a Friday evening season would actually been tough. Football, yeah, I mean, whatever, I'd deal with it. But I'm a Panthers fan, and they're kind of they're terrible right now. They don't look terrible, or they don't look very good. But
yeah, as we alluded to, like UFC London was incredible. I was in the back of my Uber on the way back from the airport when Ilia Topuria did what he did. And it took every ounce of my being not to scream in the back of my silent Uber. I was very lucky in that I got an Uber driver that didn't want to have a conversation the whole way back after I got off a long flight. And I was not about to scream and startle this poor man. So I was like in the back of this Uber, like after like Topuria just knocked him into the shadow realm.
But how do you know that he's not sitting there listening to the audio of Bisping, Felder, and John Gooden just break down how amazing this is right now and trying not to do the same thing for you?
Well, he very well could have been, but I don't think he was.
All right. I would say the odds of it are low, but do not rule it out, sir.
If he didn't scream, I mean, then I think that we were both showing incredible restraint because that was knockout of the year for about 30-40 minutes until Molly McCann took the octagon and did what she did to poor Luana Carolina, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is now going to be on the highlight reel of 2 separate fighters' finishes. Because isn't she the one that Ariana Lipski like bent her knee backwards?
Oh yeah, that might have been her. Now that I'm thinking about it, with the knee bar. That was 2 summers ago, I think. Now
it was a while ago, but
it's all pandemic time. It took place. Everything took place yesterday and 7,000 years ago.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now, and we're gonna see. I'm pretty sure it was her that Lipski bent backwards, but I could be completely wrong.
Well, why you do that? Honestly, the funny thing about the MMA calendar is it just keeps rolling along. There's always something coming, and as amazing as UFC London was, top to bottom, all the way up to Tom Aspinall's submission victory over Alexander Volkov. We've already moved on to the second Colby versus Masvidal fight. We didn't think it was going to happen this soon. We also didn't think that we wouldn't have to be subject to the buildup. All of a sudden, it just happened. It was for fans, we didn't have that disgusting buildup, but now we
didn't get the press conference.
Now we have this leakage of details because of course, by now everyone knows Jorge Masvidal allegedly approached Colby Covington in a Miami steakhouse, wearing a hoodie and a surgical mask, muttering something about staying away from his kids, or you shouldn't have done anything with my kids. Not in the physical way, but of course with the words that he was using in the lead up to their first fight. And yeah, he knocked out one of his teeth, apparently, and there was like a laceration on the wrist. Now, again, when I say Colby, we're saying this is unnamed victim.
Unnamed victim
under
because
Marcy's law.
Yes.
In Florida. This was invoked. When I saw that it was Marcy's law, I had to think, well, I wonder if this unnamed victim didn't really know what it was and said, I want to invoke martial law.
And, potentially. But by the way, it was Luana Carolina who got her knee bent backwards by Ariane Lipski, and then also was absolutely deaded by Molly McCann this past Saturday.
So not only is she in two different fighters highlight reels, she's also by two different methods, two very spectacular methods. There's a spinning back elbow and a knee bar. You just don't get a lot. It was a knee bar, correct?
It was, yes.
Yeah. You just don't get...
just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for.
But
for
yeah, back to Colby Masvidal 2, allegedly.
Allegedly. History opponent.
It's funny, like if again, like I don't want to see fighters fighting outside of the octagon. Like I didn't like it when Jorge went up to Leon Edwards and assaulted him backstage. Like you're
not a big 3-piece Minnesota connoisseur.
But at the same time, it happened, and the UFC should have capitalized on it, but they never did. It's okay. Well, we're moving on.
Dumb.
But look at this. Like if this was in fact what happened, which allegedly. Colby has now he's playing this game very dangerously, I feel like, because he's already gotten boomeranged. He's already gotten run up on by Ali and Kamaru in the crab legs line in Vegas. And now he has allegedly had teeth knocked out at a Miami steakhouse. And like it reminds me of that Jorge Masvidal quote after he knocked out Ben Askren with a flying knee, where he said, I believe it was something along the lines of like, that guy was talking wild. I had to show him sometimes there are consequences. There are some bad mother effers out there and you don't want to wake them up.
One thing that, we're still kind of in the 24-hour period after everyone started learning about this when we're recording this show. So things can be changing over there. But when we're talking about kind of my raw initial thoughts on, and we're taking in all the details as they're coming in throughout Tuesday afternoon into the evening, I'm struck by a few things. One, Colby Covington, should he be the victim or not? He gets no remorse from me. I don't feel any sympathy. I don't. This is reaping what you sow to a T. It's karma. It's whatever you want to call it. This is what happens when you step out of line and you start bringing people's families into the pre-fight hype. It's not fun. It doesn't make it any more interesting for anyone at home that, oh man, see what he was saying about Jorge's kids, man. That now I really want to see them fight. This is real. It's like, well, you know what? You made it real, and real as it gets. And we know what happens in the real world.
Like, I mean, you saw what happened. I believe it was Luke Thomas who was like, you know what? When Conor McGregor was talking to Khabib and said it was only business in the middle of their fight, and we saw what Khabib did afterwards, when he jumped out of the octagon towards Dylan Dennis, and then, all hell broke loose. I think Luke Thomas said, these people who like to talk up a fight and sell a fight through like just all this controversy and trash talk, they eventually find out that there are people that just don't play that game. And if you poke them too much, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. Then the other side of the coin here for me is as much as I feel absolutely no sympathy for alleged victim, who we can take our stabs at, Jorge Masvidal really shouldn't have done it. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like you had 25 minutes. You did. You had it. You made your money off it. You made a lot of money off of it because you got the points on top of it, which Colby did not. In that fight, because we know he was in that fight. We can confirm that Colby Covington was in the fight at the beginning of the month. We all paid money for that one. But you had 25 minutes. You couldn't get it done. I'm sorry. You're going to have to live with that. The real world, you just go find someone at a restaurant. Like, dude, it could have been worse, I guess, if as long as he was just hitting him, I guess it's like there's less chance of, the unfortunate situation that such as, Cain Velasquez finds himself in right now, where the danger he presented was compounded by the fact that someone else actually ended up getting hurt, even beyond his intended target. That's obviously a whole nother conversation, but at the very least, he's just throwing hands. No one else is getting caught in any, literal or figurative crossfire here. But you can't do that. I mean, dude, you gotta say it's enough. Like, move on. You lost. I know it hurts about what they said, but like, is it going to make anything right if you do a little time in prison for a felony? Like not a good idea.
It's, like you sympathize with what he was thinking and what was going through his mind when he did it.
Sure.
But it's like, because we've all had that feeling where it's like somebody is a dick to us in public or something. And even if it's not even somebody we know, where we're just like, man, I wish I could just like punch this guy right now or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, but like you have to like kind of throw on the brakes and be like, no, like there are like legit consequences if I do this. Like,
and this is we're talking several weeks out now from the fight. It's been 2.5 weeks since these two fought, so it's not even like this was the emotions of the moment, which kind of harking back to what you're talking about with Leon Edwards and him as well. That was all like same night. It was in house. It was in arena. It was like. You can almost kind of understand how, there's a lot of juices flowing. There's a lot of adrenaline going on. There's a lot of testosterone and all that kind of, all these sort of things we all talk about, right? Euphemisms for everything. But here, like, dude, you got to move on. Time has passed. I don't know. It's a tough thing, like you're saying, but man, where are you now? What does this do to help you? Other than the fact that, oh God, maybe we have to get this in a real fight again. Are we going to get Colby Masvidal 3 without seeing 2?
Well, I guess like all the talk about like, is this beef manufactured or is it real? I think we have a pretty good sense now if what these details are saying in the reports are true.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that narrative too. And I remember a bunch of people kind of speculate. I forget if you were even unsure about it. I know a lot of people.
I was pretty sure it was real.
You were pretty sure. I was quite sure it was real. And then when I spoke to Jorge, I mean, he did the answer that he particularly gave me when we, in the lead up to the fight, he was the subject of my first, the debut of my Q&A for the Post, which we call the post fight interview. And you can find on nypost.com, but cheap plug. But
Very
Jorge,
good name.
Thank you. I've been playing with that for a long time. But Jorge, when I asked him like how much of the beef is, real and how much is it kind of like, amplified or something like that for whatever. And he gave me an answer that basically was just outlining a lot of the real issues there. Like with, you can't name my kids. You got to keep my kids out of this kind of thing, my family and that kind of thing. I don't know what you're going to think, take for that what you will or whatever, but it did not feel like he was trying to make me believe anything. It was there. I knew it in him. And I was like, one, even before they had to press conferences and all that stuff, because before that, I was like, man, there's something here.
That's
he
the
does
thing
not
about
like
Jorge,
Colby.
though. That's the thing about Jorge, though, is like the background he comes from is not one where they're like manufacturing beefs. Like that's like the streets, like literally backyard cage fighting. And it's like,
evidently you only manufacture this stuff in Oregon. That's where Chael's from. That's where Colby's from. This is what they do. And of course, Chael, at least when he did it a lot better. Chael's in his own hot water right now because now he's got a bunch of charges from that December incident. I don't even think we have time to get into that one today, but just for the simple focus on the way Colby has developed this persona that to hype himself, to make something of himself, to promote. I forget who it was who was kind of talking about this social media. Maybe was it one of the CME guys? Maybe Ben. I can't remember. But someone was saying that, like, look, you can't just do this thing and like this persona that Colby has put on and not be fun or funny or like that. It's just it's just screed. It's just mean. It's not interesting. It's not fun. It's not engaging. All you're gonna do is make people mad, and obviously that's what he's done because he, like you said, he got boomeranged. He got checked in the crab legs, and obviously
he got kicked out, or basically kicked out of ATT.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, look, he can spin it however he wants, but I don't imagine he wanted to leave there, all things considered, because
it's not like any of those guys are like talking good about him now. It's not like Dustin Poirier and Jan Jacek are like, oh man, we miss Colby. Like they're always like, no, it's like, I hope he gets his ass beat in the next fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things too that I asked Jorge about when we spoke was, how are the people? I don't even know if this got into the interview, but or into the published version, but. At ATT, I mean, he said like everyone's like, "Yo, dude, you got to fuck him up." Like like every single day, he said like people who he didn't even interact with would like just come up and tell him that. How much is he embellishing there? I don't know, but I mean, you certainly get the sense that there was a very real feeling of like, yeah, you're representing ATT here, and he is not, and we want ATT to win. So there was at least, I think that was very good.
Yeah, and I mean. He seemed to have rubbed a lot of people at ATT the wrong way. And I think that's just an added element. It's not just like, oh, that's our former teammate. It's like, oh no, that's that asshole that like was a dick to everyone and then was basically kicked out.
Yep.
I didn't hear the interview, but I heard it might've been the CME guys. They referenced that like Dan Lambert did like an interview and he was just like, basically like, oh, I helped create like the character of Colby Covington. And then he's like, I kind of regret it now because like he's taken it so far.
Because I do. I certainly regret it on his behalf because I'm tired of dealing with it. It would be one like, look, I don't necessarily love as like a writer or whatever, as a reporter covering the sport. I don't really love dealing with like all of the Conor McGregor stuff because it's really not my kind of like I guess my cup of tea, you could say. Mm-hmm. But I understand that it is something people have really connected to for better and worse. And also it's like, it is a big deal. Colby Covington has not reached that level. Like there are people in MMA media who can thank a lot of their work and a lot of the fact that they can make money and they have jobs and they're in a position they are right now to Conor McGregor. It's it's the deal with the devil that was made and it has, it has worked to some degree. That's not happening with Colby Covington. He's just kind of a douche that we all have to deal with like from time to time. And thankfully he doesn't fight that often. So it's actually not been that bad, but we had to cover, when UFC came to New York, that was my first chance to cover a live UFC in a couple of years. So it was nice to be able to get there and everything like that. And I was like, well, what are we going to write here? Off of media day, and one of the things that was requested by my editors, and I have no argument, I don't, I didn't debate it or anything like that, was hey, why don't we do something off of Colby Covington? I'm like, great. So I opted for a column. It was do whatever you want. So I opted off for a little more of a column and a little bit more editorial piece there, which I felt much more comfortable doing than maybe trying to just kind of shape his words and represent the words, which you're not supposed to do anyway. I mean, you gotta apply proper context, these kind of things, of course, and stuff. But yeah, I felt much better when I could at least interject a little bit of my feelings on there, and that felt much better. So
yeah, it's gotten to the point, like at first when the gimmick first started, it was like, all right, what's this guy have to say? Like what's he gonna say next was kind of like the feeling, right? And then it just got so out of control and so tired that like I just skip all the pre-fight interviews. Like if I'm listening to a podcast and it's like, all right, we have Colby as like the interview, I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll turn off the podcast when that rolls around because I just don't want to hear it. And same thing for like the press conferences. As much as I enjoy like a fiery press conference, I didn't watch a single second of the Jorge Colby press conference.
I hate those press conferences. First off, that's one thing that I always put press conference in quotes now when we talk about those because that's not really what they are. They're not press conferences anymore. The press conferences happen on media day the day before. Every fighter gets a press conference. That's really how it functions now. The next day, that actual what they call a press conference is really more of an opportunity for a bunch of shenanigans to happen, and then some weird media people will come up and interject themselves as well.
Try to cut their own promos.
Yeah. It's turned into its own very bizarre thing that I'm really not about, and I don't know how many people really are about that anymore. Like even those used to have like something to them, and now they're really not.
I think the last time I really thought was like a hilarious moment on a press conference was when the Schmo did his first thing, and Dana just goes, "What the F was that?"
The Schmo is an interesting character.
I don't
carved
out a cool
well.
niche
Like,
for himself.
I won't say one thing one or the other, but yeah, he's an interesting character.
I mean, hey, he's done what every media person who's trying to make it should do. Not necessarily saying follow his footsteps, but carve out a niche for yourself.
He's carved out a niche,
and he's done just
that much. You can't take away from him, and from what I can tell, the guy works very hard. So can't knock the hustle, right?
I've heard him when he breaks character on his podcast, and he seems like a totally nice guy.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, I don't know him, so I'm certainly not going to sit here and throw shade. I'd be happy to meet him and get to know him. So if I ever see, hey Schmo, if you're listening, by the way, thanks for listening. But yeah, maybe I'll see you at an event. We can say hi, whatever.
So the question I think has to be asked coming out of Colby Masvidal 2, allegedly, is that going to be the fight of the week? Because I'm looking at the UFC Fight Night this coming week, and there's some good fights, but I don't think there's any that like I am circling on my calendar and saying like, oh, I have to watch this particular fight. Like, I'm a big Alexa Grasso fan, so I'm going to definitely watch that fight. But like
with Joanne Wood,
Blades Dawkins, I'm lukewarm on. Like, I think that would be a good like mid card fight. Like, I don't know if that needs to be a main event.
I'll drop just to kind of cut you off real quick. I'll drop a little info on Chris Dawkins because he's actually the most recent subject of the post fight interview.
Hey,
but I asked him what his favorite video game is, and you know what he tells me?
What was that?
I'll tell you what. It's not Elden Ring. He was sick Elden Ring because apparently it's not his cup of tea.
Dude, I just started it 2 nights ago, and I'm having a good time, but like the first night I had a really good time, and I was like, all right, this is great. I'm usually not good at From Software games, and like I get frustrated and it's like totally not my cup of tea.
Sure.
But I was enjoying exploring the world. I took down 3 bosses on my first night, and I was like, whoa, I'm like making good progress. Even one of it, like 2 of them were optional bosses, and I was like, this is incredible. Like, I'm actually like doing well in this game. Then I got to night number 2, and my progress slowed to a halt. And I was like, maybe this game isn't for me, but I'm going to keep trying. But like, it was such like a sharp contrast of like my first night, I had a blast. And then my second night was like, I literally was yelling, like, what the hell was I supposed to do there? Was like a constant thing I was yelling.
I had, and my buddy he's very much like a dog chasing cars. So he'll text me once in a while, and he'll just, it'll be some out of nowhere. It'll say something. So one day out of nowhere, he goes to me, dude, don't play Elden Ring. And I said, why? He goes, I smashed a DualSense like a child. I haven't done that since like 94.
Wow.
And, he's like absolutely infuriating. There's all these bosses. I guess he was at Star Scourge, Radon. I don't know if hopefully I'm saying that right. But yeah, he's like, yeah, don't play it. And then he texted me, let's see, it was 1 day later. Elden Ring is incredible. Dev, play it.
It is one of those games though, where you just have like really good days and really bad days, and I just happen to have the complete opposite sides of the coin on night 1 and night 2.
I guess, yeah. I mean, you know what? I feel like a game like that, and I'm not a big From Software guy either. It's not because of a lack of respect for the quality of the games. Like I actually was playing the one that I got the farthest in, or really the one I gave the most chance was Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice.
Okay.
I actually kind of like that one because I like the kind of the feudal Japan aesthetic to it, and of course it's more than that, as we know. But I was more into that than I am in kind of these like dark fantasy worlds and that kind of thing. I'm just not really into that. The coat of paint on a game really helps me get into it or not get into it. I don't know if is that unique. I don't know. Am I weird here? Or?
No, that's something there. Like, like if a game doesn't appeal to you aesthetically, like it is a little harder to like feel compelled to play it at first until like the gameplay sinks its hooks in.
Sure, yeah, and I will say I was enjoying it enough, and I got past. There was a giant snake in Sekiro. I don't know how far you got, or if
I didn't
Sekiro,
get far at all.
Okay, so maybe I got farther than you, but anyway, there was a giant snake in there, and I got past that. And that wasn't really like a traditional boss fight. That was really just kind of moving through the world. But I had to go on vacation after that, or like went on vacation after that. Then I came home, and I'm like, well, I don't want to go back to this really hard game. I just got off vacation, and then I never played it again.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Because I didn't want that punishing kind of experience again. And I just kind of moved away, and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm enjoying Elden Ring. I think if I went on vacation for any longer than like 3 days, I probably would not go back to it because I feel like I would just completely lose all hope of like remembering how to play the right way, like where I'm supposed to go. I don't even know where I'm supposed to go now, but like I feel like I would really be lost if I loaded back into that world after like a week away.
It's definitely problematic when you step away from any game for any like almost any period of time, like a weekend even, and then you get back and you're like, I don't know exactly where I'm supposed to go. You're not telling me. I'm not getting that feedback, so I'm a little frustrated. I kind of want to do something else now.
Yeah,
every game should have at least some like option for me to turn on and be like, I'm dumb. What am I supposed to be doing? Like, make it totally optional. Put it under accessibility. Put it under accessibility. That's fine.
Like, put the tutorials back in the game and put like a waypoint of what you're supposed to do. Or like, I've noticed some games will do like previously ons. Like if you haven't played it, like if you're firing the game back up, like it'll do like here's what happened in the story. I think was The Witcher one of the ones that did it. The Witcher 3. Like it wasn't like a previously on, but it was like, here's like a narration of like what the current story is around your current mission.
I don't remember that. I played through The Witcher 3, but I don't remember that particular thing. Maybe is it something that every time you turn it on, or
because I remember I was stuck on something and
did
it
I
was
just
like
skip things? I don't know.
Maybe it was a loading screen, but like it was like narration of telling you like the story context of what's going on in the current mission.
Yeah, I most definitely wasn't looking then. I was probably looking at my phone.
So you asked him what his favorite game is, and he said, well, definitely not Elden Ring. Did he tell you what his actual favorite game is?
Yes, he gave me two, and they were Mario Party and Mario Kart. Okay. So this tells you a little more where he's coming from and what I think he, we didn't go deep into games, but you got a little bit of like, I'm not up for this, but like, give me that classic Nintendo stuff. I'm all in that. Inject it.
So did he say which one, or is he just like, no, just like the Mario Party games?
He just said those. Yeah, I would get this. Something tells me he's probably talking about kind of classic, maybe like N64 era.
Probably.
That would be my thinking, but I don't know. Maybe he's got a Switch. I'll ask him again sometime. I can figure that out.
But
he and I'll hook him again.
I don't know how this fight is going to play out, by the way, Blades Dawkins, because Blades seems to have a hard time against these power punchers. His losses are against Ngannou twice and Derek Lewis.
Sure.
And Dawkins has some pop in his hands, that's for sure.
He's got a lot of pop. Yeah, and he likes to throw the hands. He likes to put people down. He's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt that he really hasn't needed to show off. And he does say he really likes to hit people, is what it comes down to. And he can hit them hard, like you said. But the one thing that that I guess is tripping me up trying to figure out how this fight's going to go. And I don't really want to make a prediction. I made a prediction on my other podcast, and I hate making them because like I never feel good about them, and I don't even remember who I pick. So,
sure.
No, like legitimately, I'm like, you could tell me I got them all right, and I'd be like, I did. I sometimes I really do forget it. But the thing with Curtis Blades is that, look, there's once in a while where I'll really remember it, but lately I just kind of moved it out of my
mind. I remember my picks from UFC London because I picked against every British fighder.
Wow.
And we saw how that went because
that was gutsy.
I was like, oh, Pimblett's going to lose, Aspinall's going to lose, Arnold Allen's going to lose, and I even said like,
so the Revolutionary War is over.
Basically what I picked was that all these hometown step-ups were going to fail miserably. And wow, was I wrong? But
Yeah.
back to your analysis of this.
No. With Curtis Blades, the thing that trips me up here, and I think it's actually very key to the way the fight kind of goes, is it's not like whether he decides to wrestle or not. It's just I think Curtis Blades actually his striking has come along, but it's how confident he is in using the hands in like a firefight and everything. Is he at the point where like if things go wrong, he feels like he can weather the storm, or is he just going to start kind of grappling? Because we've seen him get very tired in fights too. I don't know that he's got 5 good rounds in him. He definitely wore down against Alexander Volkov. We don't know what Chris Daukaus really can do in that area either. He's gone to 1 decision in his whole career. It was a 3-rounder. It was a while ago. But now he is focused on his career. He moved away from his former police career. So MMA is now his full-time focus. And he is coming off of a knockout loss that, he even told me it kind of put him in a dark spot. You kind of feel that knockout for a little while, and it affects your motivation and everything like that. So I don't know. It's very tricky here, but I think I have to feel confident in Chris Daukaus being the finisher and getting it done here. I think at heavyweight, being a finisher really is like key.
And right now, Daukaus is a pretty solid underdog.
Right. Yeah, it's tricky. And I don't mistake that as a pick. It's just, I don't know. It's like kind of a gut feeling, I guess, right now.
No. I think that I'm with you in my pick is going to be Daukaus, I think. Even though initially I was like, well, Blades is such a good wrestler. But yeah, Daukaus has that power that Blades has had a hard time with. And then also, like you said, BJJ black belt. And that, who knows? Like, does Blades even want to take him to the ground with that?
I bet you he would just kind of guessing. I think he feels confident enough in his wrestling and his ability to kind of keep people down. And when he gets it down there, he's got some solid ground and pound. Like he can really, when he still has that boost, that energy, he's got it, and he could really hurt Daukaus down there. Daukaus he doesn't come from like a wrestling background. I think he was like a collegiate for a little while anyway, lacrosse player. I don't think he played for the entirety of college. I'm pretty sure he left college early to join the police force. But yeah, he comes from kind of traditional like stick and ball sports. So it's a little different than, different background. Can he handle a wrestler of Curtis Blades caliber? I don't know. That's going to be interesting. There's some interesting puzzles at play here. And that's why I'm actually compelled by this fight. Even though it's not like the biggest main event, I'm actually kind of interested in it.
I'm interested in it. Like I said, it would probably be I would like it more if it was like a mid-card fight, but I don't need 5 rounds of this is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can understand.
I love heavyweight main events.
I'm a huge proponent of every heavyweight fight should be 1 round, except for like title fights. Just 1 round. If you can't get it done, like just move on. That's fine.
So, I've made it known that like I'm interested in that fight, but not to like a main event caliber level of interest.
Right.
What other fights on this card are kind of catching your eye? Because there's a few that are kind of drawing my attention right now.
All right. I'm going to give you 3 fights that I think people should be excited about. So if you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out why should I listen to this card that Brian's not really that hyped for, here's 3 fights that I am actually interested in. Like,
I've got 3 as well, so hit me with yours.
Maybe we'll have overlap here. I'll start at the bottom and work my way up. David Dvorak against Mateus Nicolau.
Okay.
Flyweight fight. These are 2 high-level flyweights. I don't know that the winner of this actually gets to the title shot, because there's another fight on this card that actually could be much more deserving. And we'll get to that title in just a moment. But the winner here really steps into that like short list of contenders. And I think someone like Dvorak has kind of really flown under the radar in particular because, all these people that kind of joined the fights during the pandemic. And granted, his UFC debut was actually the very first fight that was held after the world started shutting down. It was March 14, 2020 in Brazil, when they went down there and it was like an empty arena and everything was new. We're like, this is weird. 1 week after Zhang Weili and Joanna Jędrzejczyk lit a fire in the cage for everybody.
And
So
then
this is way back.
Israel Adesanya and Yoel Romero did the exact opposite.
They put the fire out. Yep, they were exactly the fire extinguisher with the foam and everything. It was not pretty. It was in that order too, unfortunately. But yeah, he's won 3 fights now in the UFC. He's coming off the most impressive victory because it's you got a rear naked choke the last time over Juan Camilo Ronderos in just over 2 minutes. So I'm interested in what he can do against a guy like Nicolau, who granted is coming off of one of his 2 most recent fights. I believe it was the one against Manel Kape last year, where it was kind of a split decision that a lot of people were like, gee, I don't know if he really deserved that one. I think it's arguable either way, but at the very least, he had a lot of momentum even before that. Like he was kind of a weird cut from the UFC. He lost 1 fight to Dustin Ortiz by I guess it was like a head kick that kind of finished him off. But other than that, like he was looking good. I thought he was an interesting prospect in the sport. So now that he's back, either one of these guys wins. I'm interested in that fight very much. So flyweights always bring it too. They're always so. I mean, they're the opposite of heavyweight. Like I want 1 round of heavyweight. I almost feel like flyweights like need 5 rounds every time. So there's my one. Do you want to go back and forth? What do you want to do?
Sure. I'm going to say, I'm not going to go as in depth with mine as you are with yours.
That's fine. I can rein it in. I don't know if anybody wants to.
I always enjoy when Neil Magny fights.
Yes.
So I'm going to go Neil Magny versus Max Payne Griffin.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of gaming references there, I'm assuming that's a gaming reference. Max Payne Griffin.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it would have to be, right? Like,
yeah.
Hopefully he's referencing the games and not the Mark Wahlberg movie. Did you see that in theaters, by the way?
No,
I did
ever.
Well, I went on. I took a date on that movie.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You ever see her again?
I think I did, but not many more times. It was not a great movie.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be an action fight. I think that I'm probably going to pick Magny on that one, but I really enjoy him, and I think that it's going to be a great way to end the prelims.
So that'll be a fun one. It's not one of the ones I was actually going to pick, though. I will get in my number 2 one. And again, I'm moving up the bout order in my picks. Dana Bakary going against Chris Gutierrez. I don't know how familiar you are with these 2 gentlemen. I know you watch all the fights, but Chris Gutierrez, for anyone who doesn't know, heavy kicker, huge kicker, leg kicks. He's actually stopped fights with leg kicks. Like people, there's the old Cecil Peoples-ism was leg kicks don't win fights. Yeah, they do. He stopped Vince Morales with that just about 2 years ago. So this can totally happen. And he's on a really good streak here. He's undefeated in his last 6 fights with 1 draw in there. He's really moving places at bantamweight. And then Bakary, and his name, by the way, is spelled Danaa. It's not Dana. I believe it's Dana. And his last name is his family name, I believe, is the way it works. I'm kind of a little mixed up here because he's Mongolian. I'm not as familiar with the nomenclature, the family names, and that kind of thing there. But Bakary is Batgerel. It's not Batgirl. It is not Batgirl. So know that. But he is a finisher. I mean, there's a lot of smaller guys at bantamweight like this that are not finishers. He has won 3 in a row by knockout. 1 in 3 minutes, 1 in 50 seconds, 1 in 2 minutes. The guy, he puts people down. So you've got a really interesting kicker against a really interesting finisher. I think this is going to be an excellent fight.
I think that, I mean, you just sold me on that one. That was not on my radar whatsoever.
Ooh, yeah, there you go. It's the little guys, man. I'm telling you, the little guys are the ones that are very interesting because that's the level of skill is so high. Everyone fawns over bantamweight is like, oh, it's the best division now. It's like, okay, fine. Like I don't even try to get too deep into that conversation, but all the lower weights, like basically 45 down, really 55 you can put in there too.
Yeah. 55 is traditionally the best.
Yeah, that's. I guess if you put a gun to my head, I'm still sticking with 55 as the best.
Yeah, I'm there too.
I think it's the most loaded talent wise. I think you get the biggest pool of high level athletes that end up in combat sports. But I think that really anyone who's in these lower weights, especially on the male side, and there's nothing against the women, but the male side has just had longer to develop as a sport and develop athletes and things like that are more mixed. And I think the women's side it's still catching up to that. There are amazing, fantastic athletes, and it's pushing forward at a much more rapid pace than the men were to get to this point, but it still had to go through the growing pains of that kind of thing. Like, it wasn't that long ago that Ronda Rousey, who is very much a specialist, was the best fighter in the world and one of the most accomplished ever. So
yeah,
we can't really forget that. We can't shy away from that. So, but the men's side, and again, there are many accomplished women. One of my favorite fights is Zhang and Joanna Jędrzejczyk, but the men, 145 and down, 55 and down, fire.
I mean, I would say my top 3 divisions on the men's side are 55, then 35, then 45.
Yeah, case in point, right?
Exactly. All right.
What about you? What's your number 2?
I bet I can predict your number 3 then. Okay. But we're going to go with my number 2. My number 2 is Jacasey versus Borishev.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mark Jacasey and Vyacheslav Borishev.
Yeah, and I think Jacasey, again, just always a fun fighter to watch. And then Borishev, this is his second UFC fight?
Yeah, he's very much a contender series. He's only got 7 fights overall.
But so I just remember his liver shot KO of Dakota Bush was just brutal. And I was like, all right, this guy might be a problem. So
he came in through the contender series too.
Yes.
So whatever you want to call that. That is not UFC, but he was on their radar at least.
Yeah, it was not an official UFC fight, but this is going to be his second in octagon, like official UFC
proper
fight.
Octagon, yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for that one. I think that's going to be a really great fight to kick off the main card. And then that leads into your third and final pick here, which I think might overlap with mine.
Is it Askarov and Kai Kara-France?
You know it is.
There we go. Yes, we're back to flyweight again, of course. Basically, anyone who's 135 pounds and lower, guys that are smaller than me if I was in shape, and I'm not. But yeah, I think Askarov, you can debate whether he maybe got friendly decisions along the way, but I think he realistically is one win away from deserving a title shot.
For sure.
And then Kara-France, I mean, he's coming off of what was a very impressive victory over Cody Garbrandt. Basically at the end of the year. I guess it was 3 months ago now. Time flies, really. I can't believe that was 3 months ago. But he's got some momentum here. He lost to Brandon Royval, but he's got 3 wins in his last 4. I think you get a win over Askarov here, especially if it's some sort of impressive fashion. I think that really does a lot for him, and at least making a case for maybe getting the next shot at the title. Who knows, but I think Askarov, for those who don't know too, Askarov is, I believe he's deaf. His corner cannot give instructions during a fight.
Yeah.
So
I know he's at least
a
hard
very
of
unique
hearing.
challenge.
I don't know if he's fully deaf, but I know he's at least hard of hearing.
He is. It's to the point where I don't believe they can give just instructions mid-fight at the very least. Especially now we're in. We're back in packed arenas. He had a few fights in there during the pandemic. He won against Alexandre Pantoja and Joseph Benavidez.
2 incredibly solid wins.
Fight. Yeah. So very impressive. I would say that the quality of his victories is significantly higher than that of Kai Kara-France. It's just where these guys are at right now, especially Pantoja, maybe less Benavidez. So, but yeah, that's going to be a fantastic fight. And the winner of that one is a legitimate challenger, or would make sense as a legitimate challenger to the UFC featherweight title. But nobody is going to challenge for that title unless their name is Figueiredo or Moreno anytime soon, because those guys are going at it again a 4th time. Sounds like they're aiming for July. This is being reported by Ariel Helwani, so kudos to him. It's funny. Like, you can sit there and you can say, "Come on, can't we get another one?" But also, it's like it is a weird 1-1-1 trilogy here. So there's sort of like a need to settle it, so to speak.
You know who is saying, "Come on, can we get someone else?"
Who is that?
Mighty Mouse himself, Demetrius Johnson.
I didn't see that. Big gamer too.
I was streaming with him. Actually, we were playing Halo Infinite, I guess, a couple months ago.
Okay.
And I asked him, like, "Hey, what do you think about what's going on in your old division?" And he was basically like, "You know what? They put on like great fights, but I want to see somebody else fight for that title. You got to like keep the line moving. You can't just keep having these guys fight until forever. Like you got to like get some new challengers in there. And you know what? If anybody knows about defending a title in the UFC flyweight division, it's Demetrius Johnson.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear DJ say that because, realistically, like he fought different contenders all the time. You know, he had rematches, but typically they had to kind of work their way up and back over to him.
And Cejudo was the guy who eventually took him out, and that was a rematch.
It was a rematch, yeah.
But after several years.
And you can debate whether that was a win for Mighty Mouse too. I mean, it was once it gets the scorecards and it's as close as it was, and it was a very close fight. There's no robbery here, but I mean, there's a case to be made that he even won that fight too. It's not that hard.
I scored it for DJ.
Yeah, you can do it. Absolutely. I've watched it a few times, and I think by now I feel like I've settled on actually Cejudo really did get 3 rounds out of 5, but I actually feel like the rounds he won were much more narrowly won than Mighty Mouse. That goes down as a win for Cejudo, but did he come away looking like the better fighter in the fight? That's debatable. So very interesting dynamic in that fight. We don't have to go down the history lesson too far, but I really like to see fresh challengers too. I'm a big fan of that. I think 4 fights in a row. It's not just they've had 4 fights. They've all been in a row. There's not going to be a new challenger for this belt for like 2 years. And they've been active at least. It's not been like held up, so to speak. We've probably seen rematches that have taken longer. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Heavyweight, Stipe and Cormier.
Well, heavyweight is such a mess always. I mean, they've had interim titles up the wazoo, and they're gonna have another one soon. Sounds.
But remember when they had a trilogy and they only fought once per year. Yeah. And it was like, what are we doing? I mean, I know Derek had he fought
Derek Lewis had the one shot in the middle. Yeah.
But like other than that, like there were no other challengers in that division for those 3 years.
Yeah. I don't know. They need to be epic, I feel like, to get there. But look, the fighting and the action in the cage is delivering. Right now it's Figueiredo's got the belt. I will say this though, and again, we're doing a little history here, but go all the way back to that first fight between Figueiredo and Moreno. When Figueiredo comes in, he's the champ, and he does retain because it's a draw. Because he lost a point in round 3. That's really the only reason it ended up going that way. Deservedly so. I believe it was low blows, if I'm recalling. I think it was repeated low blows. I'm a huge proponent of take the point. They know the rule. You control your weapons. But the one thing that actually could have turned the fight around, even without that, is the 5th round. If anyone ever goes back and watches the 5th round of the first Figueiredo Moreno fight, go back in that round, watch that round. And I look at these rounds all the time. I'm a pretty sensible guy. I'm willing to see things from other perspectives. I'm very different than I think a lot of media out there. Watch that round. Tell me how you can make a case for Moreno to win that round. I don't think you can. I really don't. But one judge did. And because of that, it was not a win for Figueiredo.
I'm trying to scroll back in my verdict app and see what I scored in that fight.
Yeah, anyone who can find that. I think the UFC usually puts that fight out there for free, so you might be able to find it on their official YouTube channel and not some sort of weird mirrored YouTube video or anything like that.
I've definitely watched fights in that way, though.
I think a lot of people have.
I will say that
point or another.
There are definitely valid arguments for why the line should keep moving, and maybe Moreno should go back and fight again before he gets another shot. However, when you fought 3 times, different result every single time, draw, then Moreno win, then Figueiredo win, and 2 of those 3 have been 2 of the best, if not the 2 best fights in your division's history.
They're up there for sure.
It's hard to argue against that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Is I've kind of been like, you know what? Why would I get mad because we're gonna get if we're just sitting at home and saying like there's gonna be a fun fight here, and there isn't at flyweight. There is not that right now. Maybe there will be after this weekend. Even there's not that one guy you're sitting at home being like, look, he's being denied. He's got to get the shot. There's no one there at flyweight that has that quality to their case. They're significantly
there's no Tony Ferguson, there's no Leon
Tony
Edwards.
Ferguson. Yeah, that's a really good analogy. There's no Tony Ferguson out there that's just like come on, why hasn't he gotten a shot by now? It's ridiculous. They can wait. I'm okay with it. I've come around. I'm fine with it. We'll move on. If there's another draw though, they need to move on. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care. And I don't care how the draw happens. I still feel like at this point, the better fighter through 3 fights is Figueiredo. I think that's how I feel.
Though I am ride or die with Brandon Moreno.
Okay, I mean, is it the Legos? Because I can understand that.
No, he just seems like a really cool guy. Like he seems like a great dude.
I would love to.
Also, I'm looking at my scorecard for Figueiredo Moreno 1.
Yeah,
and I scored rounds 1, 3, and 5 for Figueiredo, and 2 and 4 for Moreno. So if 48, 47, and I would have given the draw if the point was deducted.
And you know what? That's fine because honestly, there are a lot of close rounds in that fight. Round 5 is not one of those close rounds, and one of the judges had it that way. So, and I don't like to throw judges under the bus. It's a tough job. They deserve a lot more credit and praise for the job than they honestly get. The judge in particular was Junichiro Kamijo, who, in my other podcast where we talk about judging, I called him my judge of the year for 2021. I think he's like legit one of the best judges out there in the whole wide world. But he made a mistake here. That's how I feel.
Yeah, well, everybody makes mistakes. The best referees make mistakes as well. Best fighters make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Big
Bird always talking about
spinning kick.
Everyone makes mistake. When I was a little kid, there was all these we had these Sesame Street tapes, right? Because you're the same age as me. There were these Sesame Street tapes, and one of them was about Big Bird. It was like, everyone makes mistakes. And then for whatever reason, now I hear that in my head all the time, like a weirdo.
Well, I never had that tape. But
I'm sorry. I should have lent it to you.
Yeah, you should have back before we knew each other.
I think we got rid of it when we got rid of a bunch of VHSs a while back.
So, Scott, we talked about a lot of UFC stuff. We talked a little bit about gaming, and in particular, what I've been playing, which is Elden Ring. What Chris Dawkins is not playing.
No, he might still be playing it, but he does hate it. He's not playing it this week. He's focused on trying to punch a man, but
That's true, which, if you're playing Elden Ring, it might drive you to punch a man or at least a wall.
Ooh, maybe this is like getting in the mindset. I didn't even think about that. I wonder, I should ask him that next time.
So what are you playing?
So I'll tell you, I actually just finished Crash Bandicoot 4. I think I mentioned it last week. I went back to that to try and finish it off. My kids were actually starting to get in. My youngest in particular was getting very into it. Can you play Crash Bandicoot? And he said it in that way. It was hilarious. But yeah, so we went back and we finished it.
I bet he loves when you do that impression of him.
I mean, probably. He would be all about it because he's 4. Probably wouldn't like it if I did it to him 10 years from now. But yeah, so we finished that off. We kept that off. I'm gonna clear that off of my drive so I can put something else on there. I got it on the PS5 too because they have a PS5 upgraded version of Crash, which is really nice. I love that they did that a lot with these games, and it was free too.
Yeah,
totally like the right thing to do is to give these for free. I'm sorry, anyone who's doing it is you're just making a money grab. I don't care.
Yeah, like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD, or 1 and 2. You had to buy like an upgrade for that, and I'm like, come on, guys.
Well, I remember that too, and then you know what I did? I tried to download the one for that too, and it was free.
Oh,
so I don't know if they changed it or what, but I got the upgrade and it was free.
I think it was if you bought a certain version of it or something. I don't know. I don't know.
That could be. Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, I finished that off, and I'm very busy with a lot of work related things lately. So I'm kind of trying not to start a new game this year. So I'm just dabbling in my SNES Classic, especially for my kids, playing Donkey Kong Country right now.
All right.
What's the best Donkey Kong Country game?
It'll always be number 1 for me just because that's such like a special place in my heart. But I know a lot of people will say 2.
It's 2. I'm sorry. And then that has a more special place in my heart, actually, because the first one I had a connection to. I played at my buddy's house a lot. But 2, I took that on a trip with me to Michigan from Jersey when I was a kid. I played it in the back of the car. We set up a TV. We put it through the cigarette lighter and everything. I'm an only child. So like they had to find ways to keep me entertained on the road. This was like the first version of like console gaming on the go. I feel like I should play on the Switch online or something like that. Donkey Kong Country 2.
You should.
While someone's driving me in the car, just so I can like get back the feels of that.
And you'll learn the motion sickness.
I think I'll be okay. I'm not too bad with that. And I didn't get it in the car that time, but I got pretty far.
So Donkey Kong Country 1 will have a special place in my heart always, alongside Super Mario Kart and Super Mario World. And that's just because those were the games that I played nonstop with my dad when I was a kid.
Oh, nice.
So like, he traveled a lot for work. I've told this story on my other podcast, but like he
go
traveled,
listen to that too. It's a great podcast.
He traveled. Thank you so much. He traveled so much for work, and he would come home on the weekends. That was the only time he was really home. And so we would play Super Mario World, and we beat that, and then we'd play Mario Kart, and we'd play that constantly. I remember one time he woke me up in the middle of the night to let me know he beat Rainbow Road on 150cc. My mom was not happy with him because like she's like, it's a school night, leave him alone, let him sleep.
No, that's the right thing to do.
And then Donkey Kong Country was like our go-to because you could play 2-player on that, even if like you still had to wait turns, but like I'd play Diddy Kong, he'd play Donkey Kong, and like he would get hit and Donkey Kong would go away, and suddenly it's my turn. It's like we're picking up right where the other person left off.
What was so cool about that too is like all of a sudden your turn, it's like, oh, I gotta get ready. It's like when you go into like a basketball game, it's like all of a sudden you need to put your game face on. It's like, now I gotta go.
Yeah, you don't even realize it's coming. It's just like, oh, he got hit, I gotta get in there.
My kids are still a little their hands are not the greatest when it comes to being dexterous with a controller yet.
Sure.
Like to the point where I would deal with them not being very good at it, but like they just kind of have trouble with it still. So we haven't quite gotten there yet to play together, but I cannot wait for that day. And I think it's coming. It's just not here quite yet. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. I haven't been doing too much. There is a lot of stuff going on in the gaming world though.
Yeah.
Like I'm not always dialed in with it because I'm sometimes very into the gaming world or the MMA world. But yeah, I mean, I saw a bunch of TV shows being announced. I saw The Witcher was announced. The new Witcher game is in development.
Yeah, that's exciting. And they're ditching their
How
engine.
much are you excited for that one?
Well, I'm very excited about it because like they're ditching their in-house engine that they used for the other Witcher games, and then also Cyberpunk. And I'm wondering if Cyberpunk's terrible launch was the reason that they're like, we're going to use Unreal Engine 5.
I bet you. Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. I'm not as much of a gaming journalist as you, of course, but yeah, I mean it always got the sense that like sometimes these in-house ones are like very much like you're fighting a battle against it, right? Like I think I heard Frostbite from EA is kind of a pain in the butt for a lot of the devs or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard like they try to like shoehorn Frostbite into a lot of EA games that wouldn't make sense. Like
that's what I heard.
A lot of sports games were like forced to use Frostbite just because they wanted them to use the in-house engine, and then it ended up messing up a lot of things. Like I think Madden was a prime example of that. If I recall correctly what I heard.
They still haven't fixed Madden. It's actually gotten worse.
Yeah. Well,
that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that is a whole nother conversation. But yeah, the other thing that got announced, we're recording this on a Tuesday. It got announced this morning was Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. I know we've talked a lot of Turtles.
Yes.
Are you a Ghostbusters fan as well? Is that like a nostalgic thing for you?
Not remotely to the same degree. Like I like Ghostbusters. I went to see Afterlife last year, and I actually kind of liked it. I don't know.
I liked it a lot.
Okay, yeah. I feel like it felt like there was a sense that like you were wrong if you liked it, and I hate when fandom gets like that, especially on social media. But I'm like, I don't care. I liked it. I thought it was solid. I think, and for me, because see, I'm not a big fan of. I like the first one, of course, the original, the classic. 2. I don't think is a very good movie. I really don't. I don't know if that's controversial to you, but
it's not a great movie, but I still love it from a nostalgic perspective.
Sure.
Just because like
fine.
I remember going to my aunt and uncle's house, and that was like one of like 3 VHSs they had. And I just watched it every single time I went over there. And it was always so much fun as like a kid to watch that movie.
Yeah, and of course, there's no arguing with the nostalgia. Like, what could I do? Tell you you're wrong to feel that way? But no, I never really got it.
Kid back then.
Stupid. I even think what's it called? What's the one with the all female cast?
I think it was just was it Ghostbusters?
It was
Answer
just
the Call?
Ghostbusters, but that's what they called it after like they released it. They're like, we need to give it another name because it shouldn't be that.
Yeah.
But
for some reason, they also did that with Edge of Tomorrow. They renamed the movie after it came out to Live, Die, Repeat. And it's like, why? Edge of Tomorrow is such a cool name.
I didn't love it, but Live, Die, Repeat's even more stupid. But
I do love that movie a lot, though.
It's a solid movie. But with I didn't even hate the answer the call. Like I think it's fine. It's not.
I didn't see it.
It's not great. It's look. You're not going to sit there and I don't think you're going to be blown away. I don't think you're going to hate it. I think a lot of people kind of attach too much emotion one way or the other to it. Well, mostly in the negative, unfortunately. But I thought it was a fine movie. It's whatever. It's But,
I wasn't even planning on seeing Afterlife. Honestly, I just went with someone who wanted to go, and I was just like, all right, cool. And then I ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would.
I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, so long story short, Ghostbusters isn't like a huge thing for me. I did like the Ghostbusters PS3 game that came out a while back. I know they remastered that recently, and I didn't get to play it back, but I kind of liked that game. There's one that they did release around the same time as Answer the Call, and it is trash.
Oh yeah, I think I might have reviewed that. And I think it might be the lowest score I've given at Game Informer, I believe.
Same. It was the same when I was with AM New York, the newspaper in Manhattan.
Yes, I do remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. Really garbage game.
Let me see here. Yeah, my headline is "Call Somebody Else."
That's a good one.
4 out of 10.
Man. Was that you or was that your editors?
That was me.
Oh man, bravo! You get a little clap. I'll give that on there.
So. This is a new Ghostbusters game. It's called Spirits Unleashed.
Okay, tell me about it.
And it's made by the company that made the Friday the 13th game and Predator Hunting Grounds.
Yeah.
And it's an asymmetric multiplayer game where you play 4 newly recruited Ghostbusters battling and catching a player-controlled ghost.
What do you think of that? When you first see that, like, and of course you know the record of the developers here too. What's your reaction?
I think it has an uphill battle because asymmetric multiplayer games are rarely wild successes. And then in order to justify the post-launch support that those games necessitate in order to have that long tail that you need to have to like keep alive and like keep an active community, you need to have the success to justify it. And it's going to be difficult for a game like this to get it, even though Ghostbusters is an amazing name and it's a great like IP to attach to a game like this. I think it's going to be an uphill battle because there's been, I would say there's probably more failure stories than there are success stories when it comes to these asymmetric. I remember Evolve. Do you remember Evolve? That was going to be like the new hotness. And then it launched and it was just like a total dud.
Yeah, I played it a little bit with a buddy. He and I were actually like having a decent time with it, but we never really got deep into it. We moved on pretty easily.
It got boring fast.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
But yeah, I mean, this has promise. It has a team that has a long history in making asymmetric multiplayer games, but Friday the 13th and Predator Hunting Grounds, they varying degrees of success. I think Predator Hunting Grounds was a pretty lukewarm received game, even though it had some cool concepts behind it. And I remember Friday the 13th had a lot of like licensing problems recently or like in the past few years. And I don't know if it's even still going at this point, but
interesting. Yeah. I played a little Predator.
I played the Predator game when it first came out and it was fun, but like at the same time, it felt too shallow. And that's going to be a problem with any of these games.
Yeah, it's definitely that. But it's also like, I feel like there's a quality gap that's not quite there with these games too, that I think they need a little bit more refinement. And that kind of, the one thing that Evolve had, I feel like it actually was pretty polished. I thought the experience was very polished. It wasn't necessarily fantastic, but I think it was much more polished than what we were getting with, I never played Friday the 13th, but definitely Predator. It was just, we had like glitches and issues all the time. And it was like, come on, you got to iron these things out by now. But because we weren't playing it like day of release. I'm very leery now of playing games day of release because I understand there's going to be some time where they kind of have to patch things and get there. So when I jump in a few months later and you're not there, I'm like, come on, really?
Yeah. And I think that it's, there's promise to this game and I hope it is great because I would love a cool Ghostbusters game. Like I'm ready for another solid experience in that world. It's definitely not that 2016 game that came out.
Do you know? Yeah. Well, I don't think you can really top that, or I guess bottom that. Right. But are there any of the characters in the game? Because that's one of the things too that I guess gets problematic with these games is like you don't connect with anything. Like there's, especially with Ghostbusters, you need that humor, you need that heart, that kind of thing. It's without that, it's just a shell.
So here it says, Winston. Here's the story. It says it takes place after the events of Afterlife.
Okay.
Winston Zeddemore has relaunched the Ghostbusters business along with Ray Stantz, voiced by Ernie Hudson, and Dan Aykroyd.
Sure.
Well, they're missing a name in there.
I think
Ernie Hudson and Dan Aykroyd are reprising
two of the Ghostbusters.
Yes. You'll find both characters in the firehouse, which serves as an interactive menu and an explorable hub where players matchmake, purchase cosmetics for Ghostbusters. Oh boy. Unlock new ghost characters and explore, which, I mean, you expect there to be cosmetics and microtransactions. Of course.
This is how these things work.
It seems like there are like two of the classic Ghostbusters in here. I didn't expect them to get Bill Murray.
No, he's not going to do a video game.
No, I mean he did the old one, one that was like basically Ghostbusters 3. But
yes, been a long time.
It has been a while. Yes, he is, I think, over that.
I was playing that game the week that I met my wife, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, we weren't married at the time. I didn't meet her and then get married. We waited a little time, just to be clear. That was the game. That was the game that I was playing, and I was having a lot of fun playing that one. So I like that one. But I actually wish that they kind of kept going with that kind of like that third person, linear kind of thing. I didn't need a game every year, but I think they could bring back that formula again, and they're definitely not going to.
It would be nice, but also it would be almost impossible with the voice actors at this point. I mean, it is impossible with one of them.
I think, but you know what? They're already bringing back a couple for this one. I feel like you can do something. It doesn't have to be all four of them. And yeah, of course, Egon is gone, as we know. Rest in peace, Harold Ramis. But yeah, I feel like you could do something there. Maybe you mix. Maybe they could find a way to redeem. Answer the call and bring back a couple. I don't know who would do it anymore. Maybe they wanted nothing to do with it anymore because it was such a toxic reaction that they got at that time.
Yeah,
but I feel like there's untapped material there, but they're not going to do it. And so I'm not on the whole that excited for this one because it's that asymmetric,
Yeah, and you had talked. I mean, we're perfect segue here because Ghostbusters is traditionally a movie franchise being made into a game.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of games, you alluded to this earlier, that are coming to TV now.
And we're finding out about them like just in the recent days. A lot of these cases, yeah.
So Halo, again, we're recording on Tuesday. It's premiering, if you're listening to this, on release day on Thursday. Tonight.
Pretend
on Paramount Plus.
Yes, yeah.
I'm excited for it, honestly. Like I'm looking forward to seeing how this all comes together because it's been in development hell for years and years and years now.
So let me ask you this, because I'm not an Xbox guy. I think I've said this before. This. I'm not an Xbox guy. I've never owned an Xbox. I'm PlayStation, all day. Someone wants to buy me an Xbox. That's fine. I'll give you my address. But I've never played Halo like story mode or anything like that. I've played multiplayer on other people's Xboxes. I went to college at the time everyone was playing it, so I didn't avoid that or anything. But yeah, I've never played through like the actual story, so I don't have like a connection to the characters or the world or anything like that.
So maybe this might be a good option for you to get to know these characters, because the lore of the Halo universe is vast. Like there are so many like different races and histories and like just planets and Halo rings and all kinds of stuff that like there are some really cool stories to explore and be told within there. And it kind of went off the rails with Halo 4 and 5, but like there are some amazing stories that have been told and are still able to be told at some point in the future. And I don't know. I haven't looked too much into what stories Paramount Plus's series is going to be telling. But I mean, if it's a rehash of like Master Chief's origin story, or if it's a rehash of Halo 1, I'm down for that. Or if it's a whole new story starring Master Chief and Cortana and everything, I'm also down for that.
I'm definitely going to watch it. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be watching it week to week every time. I might let it kind of build up and then binge it later. We'll have to see. It depends. Usually it depends on, how much I have going on, one, and then number two, how much people are going to like spoil something I really care about. So if I feel like I'm on social media and it's unavoidable, I'm like, well, I guess I kind of have to watch it. But yeah, so we'll see. But I am interested. I really kind of want to find out. I didn't realize that the lore was so vast in there too. As I'm thinking, like, why does everyone want Halo to be like a TV series? Why can't it just be a movie, even like a long movie? But if there's lore like that's very deep like that, I understand the need. I think that's really where a TV series is much better than like just a movie. Like Tomb Raider can be a movie. Tomb Raider makes sense as a movie. Uncharted makes sense as a movie. Something like, I guess this, like kind of what we're saying, or, you know, I think Horizon Zero Dawn, that should be a series.
The Witcher is a great example
of a
for series done right, I think. I mean, although I know there's a lot of people.
Technically, that's based on the books and not the game.
But, you know, the games are essentially sequels to the books, right?
Of course. And look,
it's all.
Are we having the Witcher TV series if there's not the game that's as successful, especially in 2015, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so like we did have some other stuff that was announced. I don't know a ton about either of these just because I was away when they were announced, but there's a Plague Tale Innocence TV series in the works. I know there's a lot of people who really love the story of that game. I couldn't get into that game, but like it has a cool premise.
I'm not familiar with it, but just the fact that like there was just a preponderance of TV shows based on games that were announced in the last few days. I was like, wow, we get like, this is crazy. So we definitely have to include that. I'm not a horror guy.
A Tekken animated series. I somehow completely missed this.
Yeah, I'm very in. I think I saw that I believe that was early in the week, this week. And it's coming later this year. So it looks like an anime style too. I'm not usually like a big anime guy. I'm not like an anime hater, but I don't seek it out. I will definitely watch Tekken though. I'm up for this.
I used to love Tekken back. Tekken 3 was like one of my favorite fighting games of all time.
I didn't play a ton of Tekken growing up, but I'll tell you what, my entry point was actually Tekken 7. I think is the most recent one. I know. I went to the arcade like back when the arcades were around. I think we joked about that before, but I've played it in an arcade, so like I know what Tekken's about. But this was the first time I ever really sunk my teeth in.
It's a Netflix
game. Yes, it is a Netflix one, so I'll definitely check that out.
Tekken Bloodline.
Yeah. There's the interesting kind of like father dynamic and everything. There's like a very big familial dynamic of like at the center of it, right? With the
Heihachi
and his son and all that. And everyone seems evil, but they're not sometimes. I don't know. I kind of forget it. I'm not. Sometimes the lore is too deep to dive into when you jump in as late as I did.
I mean, we recently got the Cuphead show as well on Netflix.
I saw that too. That keeps popping up on my kids' Netflix account because it's, I guess, technically kid friendly. And I'm like,
I think
is it though? Because I never played Cuphead.
Cuphead, I don't think there's some like kind of like not disturbing stuff, like less disturbing than like what you would see on like Ren and Stimpy.
Okay.
But like, you know, it's more of like it's very much like that, like 20s or whatever. I don't know what era they're going for. 40s.
I think they're going for like kind of the serials that used to be attached to cartoons. Yeah. Probably the 30s, if I would guess.
But yeah, there's a ton of upcoming animated series based on video games. Like I'm looking at a list right now. And I mean, these are all this is even outdated. Sly Cooper, Rayman,
I didn't see
Watch Dogs, Final Fantasy IX, Legend of Mana, Hyper Light Drifter, PUBG, Splinter Cell, Devil May Cry, Far Cry, Castlevania. There's another spin-off. There's a Tomb Raider animated series, Angry Birds, Cyberpunk, Cuphead show I already mentioned. Sonic Prime is another one that was announced a while ago. It's a Netflix animated series
Sonic has of course had a billion shows.
Yeah, but like this is like, you know, his first animated series since Sonic Boom I think stopped airing, which the games of Sonic Boom were not great. I think Fire and Ice is actually underrated on 3DS. However, the Sonic Boom cartoon series is great.
Can I just say though, like going back to our childhood, Brian, that not only did they have one Sonic the Hedgehog animated series on for kids, they had a second one on. There was one that we used to catch during the weekdays.
Yeah, the Adventures of Sonic.
And there was the Saturday one. Yeah,
and then SatAM. Yeah, which is the Saturday AM.
Yes,
which was always like the darker one, which I liked more. But it ended on a cliffhanger.
Oh, you know what? I went back and I actually like was going through part of it for a little while, and then I think I discontinued. I don't remember where I was.
Yeah,
that stinks though.
But they also, like, if you want to talk about like other shows that were kind of semi recently announced, not only did Paramount announce that we're getting a Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie before Sonic 2 even hits theaters on April 8th.
Okay.
But they also said that Idris Elba will be reprising his role as Knuckles in a spin-off show for Paramount Plus.
Is this the one where he's they're trying to get a wiretap on him and catch him?
The Sonic cinematic universe continues to expand, and I'm here for it.
I like it. No, I'm up for that. I really enjoy Idris Elba.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear more of him as Knuckles. We've heard him in the trailers and everything. I think he sounds amazing. And it's so weird to me though that they have Sonic as Ben Schwartz from Parks and Rec. He did a great job in the first one. It seems like he's doing a great job in the second one.
And I don't usually like he's not my favorite character in Parks and Recreation, but I think he's really good as Sonic.
He is. And then you have Idris Elba, like one of the most iconic actors working today as Knuckles. You have Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, and then you have Colleen O'Shaughnessy as Tails, who was the voice actor behind him in the Sonic Boom cartoon, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And it's like such like a strange thing. I mean, I love that they got her to reprise Tails, but it's such a strange thing that they have all these Hollywood actors working as like the other main characters. And then they got like, oh, let's just get the one person who did like Tails' voice in the cartoon.
Well, I mean, there's budgetary concerns here, sir, and you can definitely reach out to the fan base by doing it. So it's kind of win-win.
They also got her to voice Tails in the spoiler alert, the end scene of Sonic 1 when Tails popped up very briefly.
I forgot about that. I'm going to go back and rewatch that. I believe both of us have the shared experience separately of that was the final film that we watched before the world shut down for a little while.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think almost everybody had that, right? Because that was like one of the only films that was in theaters at that point.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, especially among the gaming community, I think we all caught that one.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was so good. Like, it really was. Like, it's not like it didn't set the world on fire, at least for me. Maybe you, because you're a Sonic guy, but it was good. It was definitely way better than it deserved to be. And I had a good time.
It was one of those movies where I was like, if I acknowledge that this is clearly geared towards a younger audience,
yes, that is the caveat.
I can enjoy it a lot. And I think it was a very thoroughly enjoyable movie. And it made me excited to see a sequel. And lo and behold, we are getting one, not one, two, at least two sequels.
Yes. And of course, I'm sure we'll be talking about that as when it gets closer.
It's April,
right? Just a couple weeks away. April 8th.
We're getting so close already.
Right before UFC 274. I'm forgetting 73. Excuse me.
That's going to be a busy week for us.
That's going to be a super busy week for us. Yeah. But of course, we can't really share our thoughts with it unless you happen to see it ahead of time. We can't really share our thoughts about it, ahead of time. So we can even push part of that to the next week, of course.
We'll see. I did get to see both Mortal Kombat and Uncharted before release, so we'll see if I get to see Sonic. Who knows?
Speaking of Sonic, though, there was a product that has made its way into I guess the world. There is a sweepstakes, right, that you can win a Sonic and Knuckles themed Xbox with fuzzy controllers that are blue and red for Sonic and Knuckles respectively. I just want to talk about these controllers first. I can't get past it because I can't even imagine what it's like holding a hairy thing and playing a game. Yeah. Like, this is bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know, like, what I understand what they're doing. Like, they did this with the shoes as well, by the way. Like, I have a pair of so I have almost all of, I think they've released a line since I stopped buying them, but I bought the first two lines of the Sonic the Hedgehog Pumas. And one of the Sonic ones, so they did a Sonic one and a Dr. Robotnik one. And the Dr. Robotnik one's like red patent leather with like yellow trim. It looks kind of cool, but it's also very flashy.
Okay.
And very like in your face red. And then they did a Sonic one, which was blue. And the blue was like almost not as furry as these controllers, but like a furry texture almost, to the point where I'm like, I don't know how much I like these. But like this controller, like both of these controllers take it to a whole new level where it's like
bonkers.
I don't know how you would do this, but like it's totally just going to be like, oh, look what I won in the sweepstakes.
Yeah, that's the only way I can imagine doing. Like,
put it in a display case.
You're gonna unless you're that concerned about like damaging that type of thing, and you want to sell it one day or present it or whatever. I feel like you kind of owe it to everyone else because you got lucky enough to win this thing.
To light it on fire.
You have to tell us what it's like to use a hairy controller, because the only thing I think in my head is like, man, I don't know how you are. Sometimes my hands can get a little sweaty depending on the game. I feel like it happens less now. But I mean, am I just gonna get this thing all like sweaty and smelly?
Well, also, like, think about like how difficult it is to clean carpet versus how difficult it is to clean a hardwood floor.
Sure.
It's like carpet just absorbs so much more dirt and dust and grime. And like if you spill something on it, it's like, oh, well, I guess it's like that forever now. And like I just imagine the controller. Like I was looking at my Xbox Elite controller, which is, the top of the line controller, but it has the textured grip.
Yeah.
And even though it's like a rubberized textured grip, it has like just like gunk in the grip.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
like,
well, the rubberized gets it even worse though, because it like attracts like dust and everything, and it gets 100%, all like that weird.
But
film.
I'm thinking think about like the kind of carpety, like shag rug texture that these controllers are. It's going to be just absorbing everything.
And God forbid, like you didn't completely wash your hands after like you had a snack, or maybe you decided to,
Cheeto dust.
Yeah, Cheeto dust in your control. Like, no way. That is
no way, dude. Dang. Get out of here with that.
No way. Like you would have to set a rule. Like, listen, I'm putting on Purell. I'm washing my hands first. I'm doing everything. I'm getting everything off my hands before I touch this thing, because I don't want this to have the worst odor ever in like a week. God.
Just imagine like removing the batteries and throwing it in like a washing machine.
Yeah, I can picture my kids like, "Oh, Daddy, we gotta put this in laundry. I spilled something on it." Like, no.
I do not recommend doing that, by the way, with any controller.
It's probably not the best thing to do, but neither is breaking it like a child when you're failing at Elden Ring. So never do that either. Come on. I think we're all past that, right? Except
that's what I want to do. I want to say I played Elden Ring with a hairy controller.
That's on the bucket list for sure. But go back really quick to the idea of all these TV shows and everything like that. Is there an IP out there that we haven't seen as a TV series, or maybe it's not in the works and that kind of thing? And let's give you a pass if we end up finding out, oh, actually it is in the works. It's just been development hell. Except that, what would you say is something you want to see?
The answer so many people give, and I think rightfully so, but it would be tricky to pull off, is Mass Effect.
Okay.
And the reason it's tricky to pull off is because so much about what that made that game magic was the choices that you could make. And unless you're going to do like a Bandersnatch Black Mirror episode type thing where like you can choose your own adventure, trademark. Sorry, that's not referencing the trade. Apparently, the Choose Your Own Adventure company gets very upset if you use Choose Your Own Adventure. Like
decide
genre.
Upon your own.
Decide your own journey.
Yeah. God.
Synonyms. If they do one of those, like it's going to be janky as hell, and it's not going to like live up to what everybody wants. But like that's the only way I could envision it working in the way that the Mass Effect games worked. However, much like the Halo franchise and the Halo universe, there's such rich lore to explore within the Mass Effect world. I think that you could do a Mass Effect TV show, but don't do it like the story of Shepard. Like instead do it like an adjacent story, or like a story in a different time that's like with all these alien races that are established in the Mass Effect trilogy. And that way, like just like Star Wars is doing right now, you have the Skywalker saga, but then there's also these other stories off to the side that like they're impacted by the events of the Skywalker saga, but they're not like telling the story of Luke rising up and becoming a Jedi and defeating the Empire.
I think it gets tricky though. I think what you want to do, you definitely want to avoid the pitfalls of Mass Effect Andromeda with the story that's completely removed, because there was nothing to connect you to it other than the idea of this world and the gameplay. Like, I don't think people were happy about Mass Effect Andromeda, like not just saying goodbye to Shepard, but like all the friends along the way. Like there's no Joker, there's nobody, all of these guys and gals that you got used to working with along the way, they're gone. You have nothing. You have to rebuild it again. And it's hard to do that, So I think you'd probably have to center it along at least maybe like a side character. Like if you had to pick a side character that should be the focus of the show, like just pick one. Who would you say?
Thane has some pretty cool stuff going on.
Okay.
But Garrus is the obvious answer, right?
Garrus is obvious, yeah.
Like just explore his like backstory, because he has some cool history and his backstory. So like I would be down for that. And I know that like most people would lose their mind if they announced like a Garrus type of like series, like a spin-off series.
Yeah, I think that's obviously is the big one. I think another character who'd be interesting is Tally. Because I think there's a lot of like cultural stuff you can kind of do it. You can do a very different show there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because obviously they're an analog to, some other, let's say marginalized races and cultures and that kind of thing. So I think that would be a very interesting thing. And of course you can kind of further work with the whole question about AI and that kind of thing, and where life is and that kind of thing. I think there's a lot you can do there.
Yeah, and also like if you just want to go from like a practical perspective, Miranda, I know not a lot of people are a fan of her, but
sure,
her model / voice actor is a legitimate actress in Yvonne Strahovski.
Oh yes, that's right.
So just like, you could actually cast it. But then again, Tomb Raider, when they did the Tomb Raider movie, they didn't get Camilla Luddington, who voices Laura, to play Laura in the movie. They got a different actress, even though Camilla Luddington is a legitimate actress as well.
Wait, which version of Tomb Raider are we talking about? Because I'm maybe
the new version.
Oh, okay,
like
okay. You don't mean the
version,
originals, but yeah, I got.
Like she is like a film actress. Like she's starred in like major parts in TV shows and stuff. And like they're like, let's just get somebody else.
Quick reaction: how did you feel about the new Tomb Raider?
I thought it was fairly generic, but it was serviceable. It was overall, I would see a sequel.
That's an incredible assessment. I think that's exactly how I feel. It's I
think it was better than the Assassin's Creed movie, but I think the Assassin's Creed movie also wasn't downright terrible. It was just kind of bland.
Yeah, I'm a little more down on that one.
I didn't care about the modern stuff at all, but I liked like the assassin stuff.
One day we're going to dive deep into these movies, but I was just curious where you were at with
just take like a slow week, like in the middle of like June, when like before E3, when nothing's really going on, no pay-per-view. I don't know if there's like a week off or anything, and we're just going to do like a deep dive into movies and like gaming movies.
Well, sir, next week there's actually no build up to a UFC card. There's not really any MMA going on the weekend of April 2nd, so maybe we're leading up to that one. But
we'll see.
I will tell you to kind of answer my own question too. The IP that I think would make a really interesting show, and again, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe it's in the works somewhere. I want to see BioShock, and
they have a Netflix movie coming.
But I don't want that. I want a series, and I also want it to be an anthology series. I want each season to be kind of on its own, because I like what they did where they have BioShock 1. I'm going to skip over BioShock 2, which I haven't played, and I actually do want to play, but I understand it's a lot more of the same is kind of what it was. And then, of course, BioShock Infinite takes it in a whole other different direction, but it's still very like slightly related. And I think that would be a fascinating thing to do. And you don't have to just retell the first. I think you have to retell the first game, but you don't have to retell even Infinite in the second season. You could try to come up with an original story that has kind of similar themes or interesting themes to work with, and that kind of, and based it in kind of a similar idea. I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being like a cool way to going about that, like exploring similar themes through different kind of lenses, like they are with one and then Infinite.
Yeah. That's I'm all about that. I think eventually we're going to get a TV series of a video game that actually would make sense as a good like anthology series too, because I like the idea of them. I'm not a big I'm not a horror guy. I don't watch American Horror Story, but I like the idea behind it, and I think that's what I have in mind.
What do you think about, we talked about Assassin's Creed, kind of an anthology with like an overarching connective tissue of modern day stuff, but every season is a different era, similar to what the games do. But like, you get season 1, you get 8 to 12 episodes of, one era, one ancient civilization. And then, the main modern day characters move on to the next assassin, and that's going to be in this next era.
I like it, but I will say this. There's one thing that really bothers me about the Assassin's Creed games at this point. And it's that I just don't care about anything that happens in the modern meta story, or the the current day story. I just don't care. I really just want to go back in time.
Beginning with Assassin's Creed Origins, they did make it a lot more compelling, and then Odyssey especially had a big jump up, because I didn't care once the Desmond arc ended. I think that was Assassin's Creed 3.
I want to say it ended. Did it end in 3? I thought it ended with 3. The Ezio trilogy. Maybe I'm wrong.
I thought it was 3, but I could also be wrong. But once the Desmond arc ended, I was like, I could not care less about the modern day stuff. I think it was 3, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I would like something like that. But like, give us reasons to care about the modern day stuff in the show. Like, have the modern day stuff be the thing that carries over from one season to the next, and then every season is self-contained with the flashback stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure they like. I'm living in a world that doesn't exist anyway, where they're not going to give me what I'm asking for. But I would like that. I know that the whole thing about, you know, the animus and all that stuff, it's just too intrinsic to the story for them to ever ignore. But I just want them to. Is that so wrong? I don't think it's wrong. You know, we're actually getting a little late here in this show, but I do want to. I wanted to ask you, because you were complaining about something on social media, and complaining is probably a strong word, but I'm actually with you with this. So let me set it up. You are not really happy with kind of the disappearance of physical media, especially when it comes to these big streaming shows, right? You're not happy about this.
So I'm a huge MCU fan. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and there's a bunch of other series that I really enjoy. And I started migrating away from physical media. You know, I'm almost completely digital with games. I am completely digital with music, and I am mostly digital with my books. However, movies, I decided I was going to keep on collecting the series and the franchises that I really love. So like if a game comes out or a movie comes out and I just really like it, like I love Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, one of my favorite movies of all time, if not my favorite movie of all time.
Great film.
I own it digitally. I don't have it physically because it's just a one-off movie that I really love, and that way I can just fire up my Amazon account and watch it whenever I want, wherever I'm at. I like having on display on my shelf the entire MCU run. So, you know, starting with Iron Man and Incredible Hulk, running all the way up through Endgame, Infinity War, Spider-Man, Far From Home, and then, you know, all the subsequent films. It's nice to look on my shelf and be like, wow, look, that's all the movies in like my favorite ongoing series. Nowadays, same thing for Star Wars, because, you know, we have The Mandalorian with the Book of Boba Fett, and then over on the MCU, we have WandaVision, Hawkeye, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, and then all kinds of, like, Moon Knight coming up in a couple weeks here, or I guess
don't forget week. What If too.
What If, yes. They don't release any of those in physical media. However, they are extremely integral to the story. I mean, look at what WandaVision did for like the future of the MCU. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is extremely dependent upon the events of WandaVision. Just like Falcon and Winter Soldier sets up a major character in the future of the MCU. Loki sets up the next big bad for the MCU. It's like there are so many important storylines that are either started or carried over within those shows. It feels like, as a collector, from a collection standpoint, it feels like my collection will never be complete unless they release those. So what I did was I made a call. Spider-Man Far From Home was the last movie technically of the Infinity Saga. You know, after Endgame, Infinity War and Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home was the final movie in the Infinity Saga. I guess technically you could include Black Widow in that, since that was like a prequel, or it was a flashback movie, like that took place after Civil War. But at the same time, it was after Infinity War and Endgame that like it released, and like the saga had pretty much been bookended at that point with Far From Home. So I didn't buy that. I didn't buy Eternals because I wasn't the biggest fan of that. I really wanted Shang-Chi because I really liked that movie a lot. But I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to buy these anymore if I can't just have the complete run. And the same thing for Star Wars. Like, I want to have The Mandalorian on my shelf next to the other Star Wars movies because I love that. And I love like being able to just look on it and see the complete run. And it's actively discouraging me from buying physical media. Like I bought Spider-Man No Way Home, but I bought it digitally. I canceled my pre-order of the Blu-ray or the 4K Blu-ray on Amazon because I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore.
I relate to you. And thank you for that impassioned speech. I will give you a little clap as well, but I relate to you in this entirely because the one thing that I do like to collect as far as like a display, and I've got like a decent collection of like graphic novels, some Batman ones, and some and the Modern Ninja Turtles run from IDW. Big fan of that. If you don't read it, I really highly recommend it. Whether it's you, Brian, or anyone listening. I really like to have like these. I used to have a giant movie wall that got damaged in flooding. The movies were fine, but the wall is gone now, so I had to replace it. I'd already downsized a lot of my movies to digital and got rid of them, but I have it now as like kind of the same thing as you. It's these movies that either they mean something to me or they're like franchises that I kind of collect. MCU is one of them. I can totally relate. I can understand why you're kind of like, well, why am I going to spend this money anymore? I used to collect every Adam Sandler movie on physical media. That got really hard when they got really terrible. Like I will tell you with shame, I have shame about this. I did own Jack and Jill on Blu-ray.
Oh
yeah, it's I'm going to have to tell this to my kids one day and they're going to have to judge me, their father, as this is the type of person who brought them into the world. And kids, listen, I don't know why you listened to episode 3 of the Grand Opponent podcast, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I did. I moved away from that. I couldn't do it anymore, especially when Netflix was where all his movies were going and they weren't even coming to physical. Like you had the same thing. I'm like, well, I'm done. I'm done with this. There's no more. Like I got rid of some of those and now I'm just like, all right, I have the essential Adam Sandler collection and I'm happy with that.
Going back to your analogy about like graphic novels, like could you imagine if it was like, all right, here's the compendiums like 1, 2, 3, and 5. We're not going to release 4, even though there's really pivotal stuff that happens in there.
Sure.
And it's mostly focused on this one character that like not a lot of people care about, but it does set up like a lot of big stuff that happens in 5. It's like, well, I don't want to collect those then because I'm not going to have like the complete run. Like that's almost what it feels like.
Yeah, no, I get it. I really do. I am unlike you, I am going to continue getting just the movies. I have been, I totally reconciled that. I'm okay with not having the TV series and I'm just getting the movies and everything like that. My wife and I like the movies and I don't, not like we take the discs out very often, but I kind of like it. It looks good on my shelf. I've got room for more. I'm looking at it right now, actually, as I'm talking to you, sir.
You do have a big smile on your face, like you're looking at like the face of Santa Claus.
What I'm really looking at is Batman, and that's why I got a smile on my face. I got the Dark Knight trilogy right there. Yeah, I actually did just buy Eternals on Blu-ray, and I liked it more than you did. We don't have to go into our thoughts too deep today.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I actually thought it was better than that. I really didn't think I would like it at all. I think that's
I do want to watch it again, though. Granted, I do want to watch it again. I just was not going to go to a theater and watch it again.
No, that's fair. I actually watched it a second time with my wife when it hit Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I relate. I've definitely scaled back the number of movies that I am buying in physical. Streaming did kind of ruin that, but I do like to have. I've got a lot of Voodoo copies. I have my Voodoo collection is like 800 or 900, might even be over 1,000 at this point. I have a lot, I'm telling you, because they had a disc to digital program, and maybe they still do. But with the disc to digital, I could put in my DVD and I could buy the movie again for like it was like $1 or something like that. And then I would just sell the disc to FYE. Shout out to FYE if it's still alive. It was for a while.
I'm pretty sure it's not.
Oh, is it? Maybe the pandemic killed it, but it hung on for a lot longer than you'd think, I bet. But I took my stuff there.
There are 188 locations as of last year.
Boom. See, they're surprising. They're hanging on. They are resilient. And they took my stuff. I got store credit because I was happy to buy a few more things. And I more or less I probably paid a little bit to get the digital upgrades, but it really wasn't that bad. It really wasn't.
I wish they still had that option.
And I also got a lot of digital copies working at the newspaper because they would send all the movies into our entertainment editor. And he'd be like, well, I don't need the digital copy. Here you go.
Oh,
So I have a lot of movies that I haven't even watched and don't even plan to. So there's that too.
all right. Well, you want to take us home here?
Yeah, I mean, that's our show. You know, if you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe to this show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Google, wherever you found us. You know where you're at. This helps our show grow. While you're at it, would you kindly follow our social handles at Brian P. Shea and at Scott_Fontana on Twitter and Instagram.
And of course, thank you so much for listening. And if you want to reach out with questions, feedback, topics you'd like to hear about, or just letting us know what you're hyped about, hit us up at groundandpwnedpod@gmail.com or at groundandpwned on Twitter. Until then, enjoy the fights, enjoy the games, and we will talk to you next week.